Months ago, and it was all about feminism and the idea that feminism has a bad rap as a word, and so I'm like, well, let's just mess with it and do F-word story. And so you can't see because it's been kind of all discombobulated, but the store will be intact by 11. And so throughout the store, it's F stands for fatherhood, F stands for family, F stands for female innovators, and so that's kind of the idea behind this story. So I'm going to let you take it away, but anyone who has been to an event here before, there's one question that I always ask people who are hosting events or panels or anything, which is, what's a fun fact we can't find out about you on Google? Because then you're guaranteed to leave here knowing at least one thing you didn't know before. And she's very Googleable, so
yes.
I'm curious to know what she says.
It's a problem because I'm like a shameless exhibitionist, so like everything about me on Google. This isn't that cool, but which is probably why I haven't posted on the internet about it. I am kind of obsessed with French, actually. I like have always, when I was little, people would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'd say French. And I read in French a lot. I'm a total Francophile. I have not gone as recently in the past few years because I have little children. But yeah, my F-word secret, I guess, is French. I hope that that's now you know, people. Now you know. Thank you so much, Rachel, for the amazing introduction, and so cool that Patricia's here and that all of you are here as well. Like Rachel said, it was kind of like a natural affinity to do this event. If I had to pick one word beginning with any letter that has shaped my life, it would probably be my relationship to feminism. If you said, okay, now you have to pick another word starting with any letter, it would probably be my relationship to fitness. And they've both lived as F words in my life, and that I've had a kind of contested relationship with them for many years. And it was really only when I found this class, intenSati, which we're going to do today, that I think through the power of language, the power of speaking, that I managed to bring together these two crucial things in our lives, probably in all of your lives if you're standing here today, feminism and fitness. And so I want to share with you a little bit about that, and then we're going to get moving and have an amazing time. Especially because Anna's so pregnant. Do you want to sit down for a couple of minutes? And we're going to get moving. All of you can, so she doesn't feel bad. We're just going to talk for a few minutes. Thank you. So I have kind of this weird life. I've been teaching this class, intenSati, at Equinox and lots of other different places for about 8 years. But I'm actually a college professor. I have some of my college students here. I focus on the history of culture in the United States and writing a new book about fitness culture in America. And growing up in the 1980s and 90s, I don't know about you, but my relationship to feminism, and this was even in a really, really liberal place, was like, I was on board with the things that feminists accomplished, but they seemed like really distant things. It was like, you know, fighting for equal rights, getting the vote. All of these things seemed like very distant kind of policy concerns that didn't really concern me. I felt like the battle had been won for me. I can wear pants to school. I'm not afraid to raise my hand in class. I'm not afraid to be a girl. I'm doing well. I speak out loud. And so in those days, I don't know if this resonates with any of you, something we would hear very commonly, and what I would say very often was, I'm not a feminist, but, and we would back away from that term, because what would you even if you were like a girl or a woman who stood up for herself, you would not want to be labeled as a feminist. To be labeled as a feminist meant to be, 1, maybe seeing yourself as a victim, 2, being too pushy, 3, demanding too many things, being too political. And so we all, in those days, people that I hung out with, benefited very much from the accomplishments of feminists, but we didn't really think it meant anything to us. These are battles that have already been won. What I realize now in retrospect is that backing away from that word, backing away from those conversations, what basically meant that I was blinded to so many things in my own life, in me, in that little way that a 16-year-old or a 22-year-old sees, you know, the whole world is just about me. So many things in my own life a feminist perspective could have benefited. Why was it? I was really good in the humanities but never raised my hand in math or science classes. Why was it? I felt so great about myself when my size 26 jeans fit, but I was like destroyed when my bigger jeans were the ones that I had to wear. Why was it that I was so afraid of using that word? What was going to happen? Boys wouldn't like me if I seemed too pushy or too political. And so for a long time, I kind of lived in that space. Fast forward through college, I went to work on Wall Street. I worked on Wall Street, and I'm like, oh yeah, feminism was about my life right here, things that are happening. It was probably a scene you can imagine, very few women in senior positions, the women who were in senior positions, this is back in the very early 2000s, the women who were in senior positions were very often the butt of jokes. they actually, in those days, in that particular place, have families, meetings that went from meeting rooms seamlessly into strip clubs, jokes about secretaries who were all women. And I had this like moment where I was like, feminism is about me, it's about a bigger we, it's about building bridges, this is something I want to know about. So I started reading and reading and reading and reading and reading. I went off to study with the founder of feminist studies at Stanford, where I ended up getting my PhD. And I really became to define myself primarily as a feminist. Here I am. Now, so it was no longer an effort for me. Meanwhile, I had this fitness passion. Nothing made me happier than getting to the gym and taking a class. In those days, it was step, it was the beginning of spin, it was a kind of like the aerobics era. And I felt like I was a traitor to these serious feminists that I was dealing with, because I was like stealing off to get to step class. I was like, God, we're supposed to be focused on like the struggle, and here I am sculpting my abs. Like, what? I'm such a sellout. What's wrong with me, right? And why was, like, you would think fitness and feminism go hand in hand. I mean, you've probably all heard of Title IX, right? The law that made equal funding for women and men in sports. And before that, I can tell you, having studied this stuff, the fight that women have had to be active in the 19th and 20th centuries. There was all these theories that if women like moved around too much, that they would like jostle up their lady parts and not be able to have babies. That if they were too active, this wasn't even like team sports, this is in gym class. If they were too active, it would breed competitiveness, and like you do not want a woman to be competitive, because that is like the worst thing that could happen in society. They'd get muscular, they'd look unladylike, like what was gonna happen? And then, this was always kind of the subtext, they spent all that time getting hot and bothered with other women. They might not even want to have babies, and they might turn into lesbians. And so there was this whole struggle for women to get active, right? And so you'd think fitness and feminism go hand in hand. But the truth was, a lot of the skepticism and ambivalence that I had, I think was actually well placed, because when I would go to those gym classes, it was a total me, me, me. People, it was fun, I got a lot out of it, but it was very narrow. The language issue that I talked about, literally the only way that we would speak in those classes was, bikini bodies coming, ladies, what did you eat last night? Burn it off, swimsuit season, get those skinny jeans on. And so there was in some ways really good reason that I felt kind of like a traitor to the cause by like handing over my dollars to be a key part of this diet industrial complex. Anyway, I get to where we stand today because when I moved to New York City, I joined a gym, because like that's what I do, and I walked into Patricia's class right there, and I found a class, which is the one that we'll do today, which was so powerful and fun and had all the components of this fitness world that I love, but that poverty of language that existed, that lack of anything except for the narrow me and my body and my thighs was gone. This is a place where we can, yes, focus on the me in the most intimate physical way, focusing on I am strong, I am powerful, I am here, I am ready to speak my mind and use my body and hear my voice. Yes, but we do it for something more than, so I'm right? How do I look? Does he look fat? Right? And not just, the body is not beside the point. Our bodies are powerful vehicles. But in here, I really think, in the class we're about to do, for me, this has been one of the most powerful ways of shedding that F word. Ooh, you're a feminist. Ooh, you're a feminist who likes fitness, right? Shedding all of that and bringing it together through the power of our bodies, our minds, and our speech. Are you ready to try it? Yes. Okay, good. Stand up. Introduce yourself to somebody, please. Please stand up. Thank you so much.